Hello YouTube, this is MTGeezers. We'd like to start off this video by saying we're really sorry because we haven't uploaded any videos in ages and you all probably think we're dead. The good news is we're not, and we're here to give you more Magic news and updates and a really brand new deck list which we think you're going to like. So this is our spin on the very popular and quite successful Black-Blue Control deck list. And the deck list starts with 4 copies of Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is some great early game hand disruption. It's basically, the way I look at it, a removal spell for just 1 black mana and the additional 2 life. And it's also good fuel for dig through time early on in the game. Really good card, lets you know what they've got coming so you can save your counter spells for it. And it just gives you a huge advantage from as early as turn 1. So that's our first play set. Next we have 3 Bile Blights. Bile Blight has obviously been a superstar card since Born of the Gods. Deals with Elspeth tokens really nicely for late game, and pretty good at taking out some smaller threats in the early game as well, like tokens generated by Goblin Rabblemaster. Moving on to 3 drops, we have a playset of Dissolve. Dissolve, a typical 3 mana counter spell, instant speed, and when you counter that spell you can scry 1. The scry is actually quite important in this deck. You want to keep drawing the stuff that you need to draw into, so you'll see a lot of scry in this list. It is a control list, so obviously counters are needed, and you will see some more counters later on in the deck. Next we've got 4 Heroes Downfall. Again, really great removal. Most of the decks at the moment in the metagame are very creature heavy, with Sultai, Abzan, Rabble Red, all examples of these. While these aren't as good against the Rabble Red matchup, they're really sweet against Sultai and Abzan. And there's a few other matches up which these are really good at as well. Just 3 mana removal spell, really sweet. And then we have 3 Dissipates. Lots of people are playing Sultai at the moment, so to be able to counter a spell and exile that spell so they can't whip it back with Whip of Erebos is really great. And if they're playing a control deck too, you're slowing them down a turn if they're casting a spell with Delve, such as Dig Through Time, because they're going to have an extra mana or an extra card in their graveyard to activate it. Our final 2 drop, I believe, our final 2-3 drops are Drown in Sorrow. Really great for dealing with Hornet Queen and other tokens, especially in Rabble Red, early game mass removal. And 1 copy of Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. Now most control decks run 4 of these, but our win con isn't actually Ashiok. We can use her to win, and she is good early game, but if you need to save a counter spell or something like that, she's not as reliable as our win con will be showing you later. So we prefer to run the other win con over Ashiok, but we still run the 1 copy of Ashiok. 4 drops, we obviously have what is needed in every control deck, 4 mass removal spells, which in this case is Perilous Vault. Again, Perilous Vault is really great because it exiles all cards on the battlefield, not just destroys them so they can't be whipped back. It's also really great because it gives you 2 turn advantage, not just 1. If you play it turn 4, they don't really want to play anything turn 5, and when they pass turn, you can activate it on their end step, meaning you've put them basically 2 turns behind you. 4 mana to play, 5 mana to activate, really solid card. 5 drops, we have 2 Jace's Ingenuity. We would run more of these, but we run Dig Through Time, and obviously Dig Through Time is an all-star card at the moment. So just 2 Jace's Ingenuity, really good spell. Instant speed really important here with most of the things in this deck. Most things are instant speed. I think the only things that I can think of that aren't are Thoughtseize, Drown in Sorrow, and Ashiok. So these are really important, and Perilous Vault obviously. But really good card advantage, drawing 3 cards for 5 mana. Our win con for this deck is 2 Pearl Lake Ancient. Pearl Lake is a massive bomb. It's a 7-drop 6/7 with flash, can't be countered, and it also has prowess. And if they do try and kill your Pearl Lake, you can bounce 3 lands to your hand and win with this. Pearl Lake we saw win in the Magic World Cup for the Denmark team, not Dutch team. And it's just a really great win con. A bit more versatile than Prognostic Sphinx, and it's got a higher percent win than Ashiok decks. So even though Ashiok did win overall the deck with Ashiok in, I prefer to play Pearl Lake. It's a bit more straightforward as well, and the decision making is much easier with it. So we have 2 Pearl Lakes. And finally, the last card is 4 Dig Through Time. Drawing a hand and discarding the worst cards and keeping the best is obviously really powerful. It has Delve, it's at instant speed. What's not to like about this card? Ivan Floch himself even said he thinks it's better than Sphinx's Revelation, and that stands for something. So that's the final card in the actual main deck list. Now we're going on to the mana base of the deck list. So I'll put these here for you. So first we have 4 Temple of Deceits. Scrying from turn 1, really good, and it provides 2 colours of mana, so it's a really solid card. We have 4 Dismal Backwater. We don't play these for the gain 1 life, but they are quite good for that too. Against the Rabble Red decks, it can actually buy you a whole nother turn. Otherwise, it's again just 2 mana colour fixing. We then also run 2 Opulent Palace. Opulent Palace again sorts you out in your colours of black and blue. The green isn't really needed at all in this deck, but it also can confuse your opponents on turn 1 that you're playing Sultai, so they might play the first turn or 2 differently, which is quite good. And we then have 3 Radiant Fountain. Now you might be wondering why we have these in here, because we're needing to hit our colours for Bile-Blight double black so early, Dissipate double blue, Hero's Downfall, etc. But these are great for when you get the Pearl Lake out later game, because if you have to return 3 lands you control to your hand, and you can even return 1 of these, when you replay it you're gaining another 2 life, and if you do that several times or with multiple of these out, that life really starts to add up and you start gaining a lot of life. We only have 1 Polluted Delta in this list, however we do recommend running 4. Probably just take out some swamps and islands from the list if you want to run more, because we are quite heavy on swamps and islands, but definitely run 4 of these advised. We also run 1 Evolving Wilds because it's an extra bit of mana fixing, again fuels the graveyard as well for dig through time, just really solid card. And 1 Urborg, because Urborg can be used, turns all of your islands into swamps as well, so you can be hitting Dissolve and Hero's Downfall on turn 3, which is really important in this deck, because as you can see we've got so much double blue and double black cost. Then moving on to the basic lands, we have 6 islands, and we have 5 swamps. So that right there is the main deck, as you can see, and we're now going to move on to the sideboard real quick. We'll just skip through this a little bit faster than we did the main deck. But the sideboard includes 1 Jace's Ingenuity for against a control matchup. The extra card advantage is really important. 2 Nullify when you're playing Sultai decks and other creature heavy deck strategies. Really solid. 2 mana, you can counter Courser of Kruphix, Goblin Rabblemaster. These things are really great. Obviously the double blue is a little bit of a letback for it, but they're solid. 2 more Drowning Sorrows against the Sultai Whip decks. Really solid against Hornet Queen, and the Rabble Red token decks, really good against. Aether Spout's pretty much against any aggro deck strategy. Bouncing everything to the top of their library can delay them by so many turns, and it's what you need to play the Pearl Lake and then win. 2 Silence the Believers, again really good because it exiles the card, not just puts it to the graveyard so it can't be whipped back. A 4 mana removal spell, so it's not the cheapest, but you can strive it, so late game these things are absolutely huge. 3 Disdainful Strokes against the decks that might play a bit higher up the curve. Maybe control decks you want to put them in against, maybe 1 or 2. Sultai and Abzan these are really good against. They also counter Siege Rhino. And finally, a full playset of Negate, because there are a few burn decks running around at the moment in the format, and token decks, and being able to counter those cards like Hordling Outburst that put you 3/1/1s down for just 2 mana is really great, and it can actually put you ahead of the game by quite a lot. So thank you for watching. This is MTGeezers. Goodbye.